Mario Kart Wii boasts some of the craziest shortcut and glitch world records in the Mario Kart franchise. However, impressive accomplishments have equally been pulled off in the game's timeline for the no glitch and no shortcut categories of tracks. Today's story in the Most Iconic World Record series dives into an underrated no glitch world record on Maple Treeway set in the first 8 months of the game's history. Japanese player Shooto's 2:18.930 world record. Maple Treeway is one of those tracks that you either grow to love or hate. Despite the tranquil scenery and absolute killer soundtrack, this track tends to give many players difficulty when playing, and for good reason. A lot of the track is riddled with seemingly random factors that make you bounce forever, contort your vehicle in wacky ways amongst other things. And over time, the track has evolved with many high-level advanced techniques that only few have tried their hands at to optimize, with American player Demon being the man leading the charge of advancing the track's meta in recent years. It would be no surprise that the beginning of the world record history here would feature outright skipping certain aspects of the track, like entirely skipping a boost panel after the Wiggler section, or opting for conservative strategies such as one main turbo on the turn after the cannon for better control at the time. However, quickly onto the scene we enter Japanese player Shooto. He arrived with his first world record less than 2 weeks after the game's release, and would trade hands several times until he had a vice grip on Maple Treeway, mostly uncontested for the rest of 2008. This type of one-player dominance in the very beginning of the game with peak activity and competition is quite uncommon. Quickly, Shooto blasted away second barrier after second barrier from 221 all the way to the aforementioned 2:18.930, while being defeated for less than 1 day by Norwegian player Lawrence, and quickly answered back with another improvement. The question is, why was Shooto able to capture such dominance at the very beginning of the game on this track, and in addition, why is his 2:18.930 world record set on December 29, 2008 so great? Enter the Maple Treeway U-turn, where infamously many time trial runs meet their demise and you click that restart button. I really consider the U-turn to just be an entire section that encapsulates the 2 huge boost panels in addition to the actual turn itself. In the beginning, world records would skip the second large boost panel, with likely hopes to make this turn easier not having all that speed into it. Eventually, players would pick up implementing the second boost panel, but wouldn't quite take advantage of the physics of the U-turn. Shooto would pioneer and implement a crucial maneuver to have this main turbo propel himself in the air off the tree branch to perfectly land on the first boost panel strip, all the while maintaining a perfect angle into the U-turn to save crucial time every lap. What stands out to me the most watching on the sidelines myself back in 2008 is Shooto understood and mastered this section far before anyone else. Even reflecting on this, it is quite impressive he had such a deep understanding of this section, as a good chunk of the intermediate to advanced player base will still opt for a slower variant of the U-turn in time trials and online play. I always regard the U-turn as the hallmark of Shooto's lasting imprint on how he played the track today. I think this deep understanding with the most difficult part of the track is what allowed Shooto to rack up unrivaled consistency of getting runs started and making more progress. Maple Treeway is similar to other tracks like Bowser's Castle, DK Summit, or Dry Ruins as a few examples. What will eventually lead to the best and quickest success are the players who can be consistent at the hardest parts of the tracks to allow them to get more runs going and resetting far less. Other players in your competition could possibly be a tiny bit better than you, but maybe nowhere near as consistent. Consistent, fast execution on the racetrack will continue to prevail in the end. Another part of the track that Shuto had a deep understanding of and had high consistency for the time was the ending net section. I'm sure this has been the source of frustration for many casual and competitive players in our time and is not surprising. Just the entrance wheelie into the net section is an underrated skill the more you delve into the track as well. Shuto was great at understanding the net cycles. So much time can be saved from being fast enough to catch the net for a triple net trick cycle. Doing this properly saves an easy 200 to upwards of 300 milliseconds every lap you can do it. What is not apparent to the untrained eye is this little air pocket when the net is flipping up and down here. You can catch this pocket in the cycle and initiate an early first trick, following by ideally hopping a second trick to lower your air time. And the final result is getting low enough to get a third trick out of the net to end the lap. The exit from the net landing into the final tree hut with one continuous wheelie is also extremely difficult when first learning. Shuto's consistency on some of the trickiest parts of the lap allowed him to be so far ahead and continue his dominance. Other sections of the track that Shuto really shined compared to the rest of the pack was understanding the entrance and maneuvering of the shroom spot every lap and the branch turn heading into the treetop every lap. There is much depth to understanding specific actions on the analog stick when interacting at both of these spots on the track. Even if it wasn't truly perfect every lap, his average performance was several levels above the rest of the player base. Shuto's efforts would crescendo to his last world record he set in the game and on this track, his 2:18.930, set on December 29, 2008. This monster of a time was set barely 8 months after the game's release. Shuto was every bit of being ahead of his time. It took over 1 full year for the worldwide top 10 to all have a 2:18 for context. Shuto was continually getting closer and closer to getting 45-second laps that would open the possibility of a 2:17 being done down the line. His 2:18.930 had the fastest one shroommer in a world record run at the time of a 46.021 lap 2. Hindsight will always be 2020, but just a few tweaks and this lap was easily capable of at least a 45.8 being hit for this time period without any updated strategies or driving techniques. Remember that discussion on the triple net trick before too? He gets that with ease in this lap 2 as well. No surprise here. And I think this comment on Shuto's run long ago really sums things up perfectly. Shuto had such deep understanding of all parts of the track, and making the track work for him. Shuto's 2:18.930 was a perfect example of what was possible at the time, while also showing how much was on the horizon with the current strategies and techniques known at the time. Reflecting on the worldwide top 10 charts when Shuto made his run, it was clear he was ahead of the curve for Maple Treeway time trial. He had over half a second of a lead over second place, with only 3 people having a sub 2:20 time, still being in the mid to high 2:19 territory as well. Especially early on in the game's history, the time trial scene had many track specialists that would be amazing at one track and push it to its limits. Shuto is a prime example of one of those track specialists back in the day. Shuto's 2:18.930 would last 111 days until he was beaten by Luna with a 2:18.799 on April 19, 2009, and was the second player to achieve a 2:18 on Maple Treeway. The duration of his final world record was equally as uncommon as his overall dominance on the track so soon in the game's timeline. His record would be tied for the 8th longest lasting world record at the time in the game's history, and the 12th world record to surpass over 100 days of duration. For comparison's sake, nearly 14 years later, with the wide array of much faster strategies discovered and overall deeper driving knowledge acquired, just a little over 100 other players have been able to get a time of 2:18 or lower on Maple Treeway. With that said, a 2:18 on this track by today's standards is still very respectable and not a walk in the park for most players, even with the current meta today. It would have been a real treat to see just how far Shooto was able to push Maple Treeway's limits beyond 2008. We never know what the future holds. So many things have been accomplished with epic comebacks in the game's history, with most recently Spanish player Pollo making a comeback of 13 years to the game and reclaiming world record on Wario's gold mine glitch. Maybe someday Shooto will want to pick up the game again and give this another go for glory. The epic history of Waluigi Stadium being glitched, as well as reviewing some of this year's world record history, are two videos you definitely enjoy watching if you enjoy this type of video. Get subscribed to see more content like this and a thumbs up for support. Thank you all so much for watching as always. Take care.